had organized should proceed. And the elections process started. Unfortunately, it ran into trouble, and Honorable Jim McKenna seized the leadership of the party. That prompted another round of litigation by then Vice President Bosa, Professor Kakonga, and Ishoto. That matter was resolved and in 2016, and the court ordered that the elections that had been ordered earlier on should proceed. The matter then again went on appeal, and there was a delay in the Court of Appeal until judgment on 7th September 2020, when the Court of Appeal finally declared that Honorable Jim McKenna had never been validly elected and ordered the party to hold fresh elections in accordance with its constitution. In the intervening period, Ambassador Rotunu had resigned as president, and in accordance with the Article 14.3 of the party constitution, the vice president, Joe Bosa, had assumed the presidency. He appointed me vice president. Unfortunately, in October 2019, he passed on, and I assumed the office of the president. So by the time the final judgment of the Court of Appeal was pronounced on 7th September 2020, I was then the president in office. I did appoint a 5-man electoral commission to organize the elections as mandated by the Court of Appeal. We couldn't hold the elections in the normal way of calling district conferences to do nominations and calling a formal meeting of the delegates conference to elect from among the candidates nominated by the district conferences. Because of COVID, we did use the regulations that had been made by the Minister of Justice in 2020. These are the political parties and organizations conduct of meetings and elections regulations. And under those regulations, the Electoral Commission, headed by Haji Hamza Sewankambo, decided that elections would be by circulation of resolutions to the delegates. That process went on between 4th December and was concluded on 17th December. 4 candidates participated. Dr. Dan Okello, who eventually got 10 votes. Dr. Opul Dixon, who got 34 votes. Mr. Joseph Otieno Petek, who got 271 votes. And myself, who got 278 votes. The Electoral Commission declared me duly elected, and I've since embarked on running the affairs of the party. That has been the journey.
Thank you, Mr. President. You talked about 17th and 4th December. Which year?
That was 2020.
2020?
2020, yes. So the process was concluded on 17th December with the declaration of the results. The commission organized a ceremony to swear me in. I did take oath.
Mm.
and have since formed a new UPC administration.
Now, Mr. President, now you are duly elected as the party president. What is your vision and mission for UPC ahead of 2026? And what message are you sending to people of the Congress?
Our mission is to reorganize the Uganda People's Congress. The mission is to lead Uganda to its stabilization. That would require a lot of internal reorganization within the party itself. It requires that the party does a lot of networking with other democratic seeking political parties and stakeholders. We shall be leading the party to take action to dislodge and dismantle 35 years and still counting of a military dictatorship. Our mission eventually seeks to establish a new democratic Uganda. So it is quite a mouthful of a series of actions and activities, beginning, as I said, with the internal reorganization of the party. Since the NRA went to the bush in February 1980, the party has been demonized. The party has been given a bad name. Efforts have been made to disable the party. So one, we need to clean up the image of the party. We need to actively recruit. We need to rebuild the party structures. It is no secret that there has been a lot of bickering and disunity within the party. We need to sort that out as a matter of urgency. We also need to resource the party. Human capital, financial capital, and material capital. Those are the things that my administration will be working on so that we strengthen the internal capacity of the party. Once, and as we do that, we would be reaching out to sister parties, especially in the opposition, to other democracy stakeholders in the country, to agree on common actions, common things that we should embark on, wrestle our country from the claws of the dictatorship. Our country is hijacked, our institutions are hijacked. Nothing is working in this country. No single party can handle this problem. So yes, as we reorganize the party, we will be working with other parties and other organizations, both within the country and outside the country, to bring pressure to bear on the NRM and the NRA so that we loosen and open up political space, we effectively participate, establish a new country in which our children and our grandchildren will live in harmony. That is broadly the vision of what we intend to do and what we have already started doing.
Mr. President, you talked about the reuniting of the party. We'd like to know the strategies you're planning to put in place so that you remove the infights within the party.
The surest way of reuniting the party is to reorganize the party in accordance with the constitution of the Uganda People's Congress. We are supposed to be having functional structures. A member should belong to a branch. So we should reestablish branches, hold democratic elections at the branch level, and get new and accountable leadership at the grassroots. Once you have your branches properly organized freely, then you build the structures upwards. You build the constituency conference, you build the sub-county conference, you build your structure at the constituency, you build the structure at the district, you build the national structure, meaning you have elections to the National Council and to the Delegates Conference. Once you reestablish democracy and transparency within the party, then there should be no reason for people to bicker, because if you want to be a leader, start from the branch, move upwards. We, in the past, had worked on an election manual. We shall be revising our election manual. We should be looking for resources to ensure that we do transparent grassroots elections, because we've not had transparent elections in the party for some time. So everybody claims to be a leader. You know, people who should have retired long ago are still holding on to office at various levels. Young men and women who want to participate are locked out. So there's fight. Those outside are fighting to get in. Those in are fighting to remain inside. So we want to reopen, to open up the space for participation by everybody, free participation. And that can only be through democratic elections. Once we achieve that, as we are planning, there will be no basis for disunity, because everybody will have a chance to participate in the leadership of the party through the electoral process. That is the only medicine we have to get unity in the party, get the party back onto its constitutional rails. Then we would have no problem.
Okay, Mr. President. Now, another question is about the unleveled political terrain in Uganda. We are seeing that opposition leaders are still blocked from doing their activities, or opposition parties, and some of them are being threatened and others are being beaten. What are your plans as UPC to see that the opposition parties also enjoy their space and multipartyism, which is in the country?
Well, this is not a new problem. For as long as the NRM has been here, we've been having this problem. So we will not wish it away. In the past, we were not even allowed to organize meetings outside of our headquarter buildings. But we found pragmatic ways of doing it. One way is to confront the NRM in street battles and fights. That we've tried in the past, has not worked. Our strategy is simple, and we implemented it. You see, the NRM had outlawed political parties in the past. We weren't allowed to participate even in elections. But because of superior organization and mobilization, we were able to mount a campaign at the grassroots, in the media, in the international community, which forced him to organize a referendum to allow political parties to participate in elections. We even refused to participate in that referendum. And Mr. Museveni had to create his own opponent to the referendum. He became the proponent of political parties. He created Ochegere to be against the political parties. But that was not what he wanted because we put him under pressure. In 2000, between 2000 and 2003, I led the National Organizing Committee of the Uganda People's Congress. At that time, the law did not allow us to hold any meeting outside of Uganda House. But I was able, with my team, to move throughout the country, to organize district organizing committees throughout the country. So what we need to do is to be pragmatic, organize smaller meetings which can't be detected, build momentum, so that by the time Mr. Museveni wakes up, we have 15 million Ugandans demanding for open political space. 15 million Ugandans or 20 ready to challenge the Uganda police and the army. They will not have enough jails and policemen to confront all of us. So it's a question of slowly but surely building a critical mass of people who can then demand opening up of political space. This we won't do by sitting in Kampala. This we shall do by traversing every village in Uganda. Initially, we shall have meetings of 2-3 people. We build up to 100, 300, and Mr. Museveni will have to give in. Like he gave in and allowed the political parties to be registered and to contest elections. We shall move into that direction. But it requires concerted effort by everybody. We've done it before, we are going to do it again.
We have been seeing other political parties trying to promote their youth and women through the Youth League and Women's League. Which plans do you have as UPC to promote the party women members and the youth? Because we know that youth are now the next leaders of the party. What are you planning for them?
We don't treat our women and our youth as minorities. We treat them as the majority of the party. So our strategy is different. We don't intend to create parallel structures for youth, for women. We want to mainstream youth and women, recruit youth and women in their thousands in the party, so that at each party organ, the majority of the leaders will be youth and women, because by virtue of demography, they are the majority. So our campaign, and which we've started, is to mobilize youth and women to massively join the party and take up leadership. I think by the time we do the internal elections in the party in about a year's time, all organs of the party will be manned largely by youth and women. So that the elders like me, you know, I was a youth one time. I was mainstreamed slowly. I'm now an elder in the party. I want the youth to join at the time I joined and became very active in my late 20s. So I want the youth in their mid-20s, early 30s, to be the ones in charge of all branches in the party, to be in charge of all organs of the party, together with the women, especially the youthful women, instead of compartmentalizing them into small youth leagues, women leagues, and then they are fighting with the mainstream of the party. The youth and the women will be and should be the main leaders of the party. They should be in the mainstream, not at the periphery. That is the strategy we are embracing. So that if you go to any branch, out of our 13 leaders, 10 of them should be youth and women. Because once the members are largely youth, they should be able to vote their fellow youth into office, their fellow women into office. That is the strategy we're working on. And at our last cabinet meeting, we already took resolutions to ensure that we build quickly a database of all the youth, of all the women, sensitize them, and encourage them to take leadership.
Okay, the common thing which we can't live without talking about is about the pandemic of COVID-19. What are you planning to do to save the Ugandans who are now infected? They are now in the lockdown. Others were economically affected since the past lockdown. What do you want to be done? What plans do you have? And even if it's an idea which you can give to them.
Well, it is a very unfortunate tragedy that through the COVID-19 pandemic. But in Uganda, we have a double tragedy. That not only do we have the pandemic, but we have a very irresponsible and selfish government, which has failed to take the appropriate action to handle this national and international crisis. Ours then is a demand that the NRM government abandons its partisan political approach to this crisis. This is not a crisis where you want to take political advantage or take selfish personal advantage. This is not a pandemic where the government should adopt the attitude that I know it all. What should have happened and what we're advocating to happen is that there should be a national dialogue on this pandemic. The government should sit with the opposition. The government should sit with other stakeholders like traditional leaders, like religious leaders, and agree a common strategy. What do we do to handle the health, economic, psychological, security, financial, and other ramifications of this pandemic? We need to agree on a national strategy. For example, there were calls last year that we should not hold the elections. We should mobilize everybody to fight the pandemic. We, for example, have declared a state of emergency. We should have cut government expenditure on many areas and built up health infrastructure. Mr. Museveni took a selfish approach, stopped other political parties doing politics. He took advantage to steal the election, to get national resources to, under the cover of COVID, fund his re-election. That was selfish. The economy is on its knees. We need to agree how to revive the economy. People are going hungry. People with other diseases, HIV, AIDS, diabetes, pressure are not being attended to, malaria. So ours is a call to a holistic approach. Holistic, national, negotiated approach to this pandemic, where all voices are heard and the best professionals are listened to, and we take action which is agreed, which everybody, once we agree, will be able to implement. You see, if people agree to a lockdown, they will observe the lockdown. If people are forced into a lockdown, you'll be fighting them. You know, the other day I saw Kenya had ordered 10 million doses of Johnson vaccine. In fact, they are getting 13 million doses. For us, we're still struggling with less than 1 million doses given by the World Health Organization. We've not purchased and delivered a single vaccine. Where is all the money that we've been borrowing? Where is all the money the parliament has been budgeting for? You know? So this is what I'm telling you, that we are irresponsible, selfish, and partisan government that has totally failed the people of this country. And our demand is simple. Mr. Museveni should eat humble pie and invite all of us to sit on a round table. So we draw up a crisis action program, a national program to deal with this pandemic. If need be, we agree to a state of emergency, and the emergency measures will affect everybody, not only a few people. If we say there's no trouble, if we say there is a cut down on the expenditure, there should be no people who have free access to public funds. We should all take the pinch for the better good. So the approach should radically change from a partisan one to a national approach to this problem, to an accountable process. You see, we borrowed a lot of money. More than half of it has not been spent. The other half was spent and squandered. The report of the Auditor General is there. So the National Task Force for the pandemic should not be a government task force. It should be a national task force, embracing all shades of opinion, all shades of professionalism, and genuinely accountable. We should account for every coin spent on this pandemic. That's the only way we shall be able to ameliorate the suffering of the people as a result of this tragedy.
Hello, Shabiba? Shabiba?
Are we still with her?
Hello?
I think look for her. Maybe we've lost her.
She's on. Maybe our microphone has been muted. Let me ask her to unmute. Hello, Shabiba? Hello? Hello?
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Now you are hearing me.
Yes.
Mr. President, lastly, we'd like to hear the message you're sending to the party members, because right now most of them are still divided because they don't know where they belong. There is a part of Mr. Kena and the party of Mr. Walubiri. But you can send them a message to know the way forward.
My message to the UPC fraternity is this. Your party has a constitution. Your party is a law-abiding institution. The leadership challenges in the party were taken to the court. The court guided on the course of action. Elections were held. A new leadership was elected.
Ni mu meeting ya president wange.
You should follow the new elected leadership of the party. You should each mobilize under the guidance of the various leaders of the party. You should not get discouraged. We are moving into the final phase of reorganizing the party, moving into the final phase of freeing up political space in the country. You are on the right side of history. Persevere in spite of the challenges, including COVID-19. Reach out to your children, to your brothers, to your sisters. Encourage everybody. The leaders of the party will be reaching out to each and every one of you. What is important is for each one of you and each one of us to do his part. There's no doubt that your party is on the mend. Don't listen to the adverse voices, to voices that discourage you. Be positive. This is not the first time you had challenges. Uganda is headed for its third liberation, and your party will be and is taking the leading role. The NRM that you are scared of is in its final days. What you are witnessing are the kicks of a dying horse. Persevere, communicate with your colleagues and leaders, follow the messages and the voices that we shall be giving, we are giving to you, and working together, we should be able to quickly reorganize the party ahead of the next round of elections. And success is definitely guaranteed if all of us put in the best of our efforts. That is my clarion call to all of you. It is indeed a call to all Ugandans that get out of the cohorts of fear. The dictatorship wants you to fear even your own shadow, but the dictatorship is empty. There is no solution that we expect from this government. We have to devise our own solutions. We have to mobilize ourselves. We have to free ourselves. Freedom will not come on a platter. It's going to come through sweat and toil. We have to work for it. Nobody is going to work for us. We have to free ourselves by sheer hard work, by sheer effort, by sheer perseverance.
Perhaps
so take all steps.
Yes, Mr. President,
Patrick,
I had wanted you to inform the party member of the structures which you have already put in place to work for the party. For example,
well, of course, party members should be aware.
You have a very competent cabinet which you have appointed with very committed people who are hardworking and who are ready to deliver the party a big success. I just wanted you to highlight briefly.
I think what I'll add on simply is that for each region, there is a regional vice chair. What I should encourage the party members to do is, one, to work within their district structures and ensure that they give all support necessary to the regional vice persons in each region who should be able to report to cabinet and to really work through the various party organs at the branch, at the constituency, at the district. And again, it came out through this interview that he are really laying emphasis on the young people, young men and women. This is your party. It is you who are going to live longer, who will enjoy the benefits of the party, or who will suffer the burdens of the dictatorship if it were to continue for another 1 year or a couple more years. So really the young people should take this problem by the horns. Patrick, is the vice president online and the national chair?
I think that
Were
the
you able to
national
get them?
chair is online. The vice president is off currently. He has been with us, but he left. But I can say,
can you unmute the national chair so that he can pass on any message he has to the party members?
yes. Let me. Hello? Mr. National Chairman. Hello? The National Chairman.
Well, if you can't get him, then perhaps you could wind up the interview.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. This is just the beginning of a series of interviews that we are going to have, and it will be broadcast and shared across many social platforms.
Thank you. And
I really want to thank you, and also to thank the Monitor journalist, Shabiba, for moderating or for carrying out the interview. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Patrick.
Next time,
thank you.
We shall do better.
All right.
Okay.